We're good? All right, cool. Hey guys, Omar here. Super excited for this one. We are very privileged and grateful to have the founder of KX Pilates with us. No longer CEO, I've just been learning, but the founder of KX Pilates, Aaron. Aaron, thanks for joining us.
No worries.
Mate, we're going to start by just asking you to tell us a little bit about the business, how you got to this point, where it's at, what the journey's been like.
Sure. So start way back when. I did exercise physiology university, personal training degree, started traveling, got the travel bug. I'm a big snowboarder, went overseas, did 2 years in America on and off, and then over to London. Walked into a Pilates studio, a dynamic Pilates studio over in London, which was the first of its kind, and just fell in love with the clientele, the style of fitness, the atmosphere. You know, music was pumping, everyone was just having a really, really good time, and it was boutique fitness at its finest. I started with only 6 people per class. Obviously now in KX we're up to 12 to 14. So it was just a great opportunity to learn a new skill, go into a new industry, and I just knew from that pretty much first month that I was going to bring that style back to Australia and start my own business. So I was there for 2.5 to 3 years before I did come back. Came back home, said that I'm not going to open I'm not going to go into fitness again until I open my own business. So I went back into bars and stuff, and that lasted 3 weeks. And then I sat my old man down. Luckily, he was a businessman for 45 years, so kind of sold him the dream. And then he was in his bank manager's office signing away as guarantor to my first business loan in 2009. 6 months later, we opened up KX Pilates Malvern.
Which is where we are.
Yeah, in February 26, 2010. So we have our 10-year anniversary in 2 months' time.
Amazing.
But it's been a crazy journey. So the first year, 1 studio. Second year, opened my second studio in Port Melbourne. And then one of my trainers came to me, Ali Sensor, and says, hey, I want to get involved. At that stage, I hadn't done anything with the franchising sort of avenue as such, but used the relationship with Ali we opened 3 studios quickly. I basically opened the doors for her, and then she ran the day-to-day. And that enabled me to step back in the business and start working on the business, on the franchise documentation. 2013, we had 6 studios total, company owned. So we proved the model. They worked both solely owned and part owned with Ali running them. And then I franchised the brand. First 3 got sold in 2013. It's kind of gone from there. So we're in 9 in 2013. I think between 15 and 16 was our biggest year, going from 17 to 36.
Wow.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is.
And now, as of I think last weekend, we're at 65 studios across Australia.
Amazing.
12 of them are now company owned, and we opened our first in Jakarta International Studio last August. So we've got a great partner over there, and yeah, things have been really good.
So in one of our previous conversations, I'm pretty sure you told me that early days you'd set yourself for a target around the number of studios or something like that.
Yep.
Can you maybe just share a little bit about over the journey how important goal setting has been, and what some of the different approaches you've taken, and how has that sort of fluxed, I suppose, as you got busier and more stressed out and more to juggle? What can you share about goal setting?
Yeah, goal setting for me has been extremely important in my life. And I've been setting goals since I was in my teens. My dad was kind of helping me out. Where do you want to be in 6 months, 12 months, that sort of thing. From the very kind of minimal aspect of goal setting to, the first 3 months in business, I wrote down I was in a young entrepreneur group at the time, that I wanted 50 franchises, 10 company studios by 2019 to 2020. So we reached that earlier this year, which was amazing. And then I was going to sell. That was my exit strategy. We obviously saw that coming a couple of years ago, and far from being ready to step away, I learnt through my learnings and business groups that hiring a CEO is also another form of exiting to the degree of day-to-day operations. That occurred 12 months ago too.
So good.
Yeah.
It's very nerdy, but I get chills hearing you actually say that you've set those goals, you've gone out, you've achieved them. Super cool.
Yeah, and time never was really a big thing for me. And I was never, they say look at your goals. I just knew that was in my head, that was the big goal. And I kind of was always working towards that. Now if that took me 15 years to get, it wouldn't really have bothered me. I just knew that with franchising, opening more studios and bringing more amazing people on board to your brand, you're moving forward. So my motto really is that, if you're in a better place tomorrow than you were today, then you're in a good space and keep going. So.
One of the pillars of the For Men model is around physical fitness and well-being, etc. We talk about diet, nutrition, sleep, activity. Can you share with me a little bit how important looking after your physical fitness has been? I mean, obviously it's a fitness business, but how has it been important for you as an individual, both in terms of building a business around something you're obviously passionate about, but also then in staying focused and staying at your close to your peak performance, if not peak performance, ongoing?
Yeah, so great question, but I'll go back a little bit. In my teenage years, I had a compulsive eating disorder, so I was always active and fit.
Wow.
Not I would say fit, but always active doing sports. But when it came to nutrition, I just ate rubbish. Right. The pantry in my parents' house was very famous throughout my friends because it was just full of shit, and if stuff came out, it got reloaded the next week. So I kind of formed these habits around comfort eating, and so if anything went wrong in my life, that's what I would turn to. So I was a pretty big, wasn't hugely obese, but I was pretty large going into the late teens. But then that transferred into getting into fitness. One day I woke up, I said, that's enough. I had a knee reconstruction at 17 because I was too big playing basketball, which was definitely a cause of. And then from that I woke up going, that's enough. Right. So I just studied nutrition, different health plans, eating plans, different diets, different training techniques from heavy lifting to the dynamic circuit training to every single thing I could get myself around. That's when I changed all of my subjects at university to fitness, did my personal training stuff, and categorically fitness and nutrition changed my life. It's literally the one pillar I look back in my life where everything after that changed. Yeah, wow. So I went to my 10-year school reunion. No one knew who I was. I lost, I think, 13 kilos of fat. I gained 7 kilos of muscle. So I went from being the girl's best friends to then all of a sudden having the girlfriends. Completely changed my life, my early 20s, and started having a lot of fun. So that from then on has been the pillar of what I need to do every single day to be in a healthy state of mind. The first 12 to 18 months of KX was really hard. It was very lonely. I knew nothing about business. I had to learn everything from scratch. I opened the doors first day, no one came in, for instance. So I had to learn marketing and everything from there. So I actually had to stop drinking and socializing for about 6 to 12 months just to really focus. And every day I had to start with exercise. It just put my mind in a really good spot, a really positive mentality. And I find now that if I don't, the only reasons I don't train every day is if I'm resting because I'm ridiculously sore. But other than that, I just need to go and move. Yeah. And that's usually first thing in the morning, and that's a staple of my life.
What are the sorts of things you'll do first thing? Is it a walk? Is it Pilates? Is it?
Yeah. So I still do Pilates once a week just to get into studios. It's great. Going now where we're currently at more of a founder role. I do love everything. I'm that classic young professional that loves a whole lot of everything. So there's a CrossFit gym just down the road. I'm really big into running. Ran my first marathon this year, but a lot of half marathons in the past. Great. That was just a tick box to go. I'll probably never do one again. Sure. But it was great to achieve. Boxing, swimming, cycling, yoga. I'm that guy that does everything.
You just need to get up, get active,
do something. But I always come back to what I started with, what changed my life, and that's just throwing weights around in the gym. Yeah. And now, just with obviously my skill set, it's not just going and pushing and pulling, a whole lot of dynamic moves and fun. But that's my time. I don't go there with friends. I don't really train with anyone. Music in, focus and go for it.
So 2 points on that I'd like to sort of unpack a little bit further. You mentioned that earlier in your life, teenage years, you weren't as healthy as you could have been. So the first question is, what's your advice to somebody that's watching this that knows that they should get a little bit more active? How can they go about it? And the second thing I want to pick up on, you just mentioned about having that time to yourself each and every day. It happens to be in the gym for you. Yep. How important do you find having that individual time for you is in terms of a mindset and clarity of thought, etc.? So yeah. Advice for somebody wanting to get more active, what can they do, and how important is it to have that solo time?
Yeah, getting active is really about finding what you enjoy doing. I know there's a lot of people that don't like exercise, and it's about trying as many different things to figure out what's best for you. But you just have to move. If that's just going for a walk for half an hour a day to going for a run or you're going to find a class, that's the best thing about boutique fitness. It's actually increasing the percentage of Australians who are exercising because there's so many different niches coming in. KX is the perfect example. So our success has been off women predominantly who don't like going to the gym, don't like guys staring at them in the corner, grunting men, or that bodybuilding mentality at all. they're very fit and health conscious, and they want to come and do a completely different style of fitness. So, and it's in a group environment, so you're helping each other out, and there's a specific instructor who, it can change things to adapt for your workout. So, but there's no difference to a yoga studio or this, that, and the other. But it's just about finding what you love. For me, fitness is I love everything because that's my kind of world.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really just about moving, that's all I can really do in terms of nutrition. I know you didn't really touch on it, but just eating cleaner. I always say HI, anything that's been human interacted with. Just try and stay away from it. So anything processed, anything white, try and eat as less sugar as possible. I think we're finally realizing that sugar is the enemy. We do need carbohydrates, gone are the days of no carb diets. Like carbs are really important as well, but just the right carbohydrates. So that's probably on that side of things. And at the end of the day as well, it is the equation when it comes to nutrition of calories in, calories out, and that's never going to change. You just have to find what works for you. The last 12 months, I've found that intermittent fasting for me 4 days a week has been phenomenal just staying that consistent. So there's whole different things, and we can talk about that for hours. But
what is your IF approach? What do you do? Do you do like actually I think I asked you, 18-6 or split, or what do you do?
18-6.
Yeah, cool.
So 8 p.m. till 2 p.m.
Right.
Nothing except black coffee, and it works really, really well for me. It's not, in terms of intermittent fasting, some may say it is, some may say it isn't because it's not long enough. Some want 24 hours or water fasting, whatever. But to me, it's almost a calorie restriction.
Sure.
And that's what it is at the end of the day. I feel better. And once you realize how much energy goes to digestion, like if I wake up I'm not feeling very good, the last thing you want is to throw heaps of food into your body, so your body stops fighting what it is that's wrong with you and starts digesting. So
interesting.
that to me makes sense. So the less food in my stomach at a certain given amount of time is more energy to do everything else. And question two.
Question two is the importance of having that sort of time to yourself. So you said that you go to the gym by yourself, and so interestingly, I was on LinkedIn this morning, and it was Mark Boris that was talking about how important it is for him to have every single day time to himself. I absolutely need it to myself, but just maybe reflect on that a little bit.
Yeah, that is the gym or the workouts, the running. That's my time to myself. That's almost my meditation. I meditate once a month with my business group because it's how we start our meetings. To me, I don't need the daily meditation because exercise to me is my meditation. It's where I think, it's where I reflect, it's where my ideas come from. Also, stepping away from the business as well is another fantastic way to get ideas coming in when you're not day to day every time. But the exercise is 100% my time, and even things like mountain bike riding. And things are a little bit on the adrenaline push where you need focus, otherwise you're going to fall off and hurt yourself. Like that sort of stuff, and that's why I'm big into snowboarding as well, because you just cannot physically think about anything else, otherwise you're going to end up in the shit. So I would also say find something as well that you can't focus on anything else. So that's you're forced to do it. So that's 100% important to me. Grounds me, and just makes me a better person.
I used to ride motorbikes probably a little bit too fast up and down the mountains, and it's probably
exactly the same thing.
Now that I've got 2 kids, it's I don't do that anymore, but that was the thing. It was like, talk about mindfulness, you pay attention to anything else and you're in a lot of strife. And so it was like, although it was physically strenuous, you got off the bike and you just felt so relaxed and at peace because you were like properly tuned out.
100%.
Got to find that thing, hey?
Definitely.
Talk to me a little bit about friendships, family, relationships, etc. You're 10 years into KX, you've achieved a phenomenal amount and more than probably 99.9% will when it comes to business. How have you gone about, I'll say, managing sacrifices? Have you made sacrifices in terms of the social side of things? How do you process that? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, look, I've been really lucky. So I've still got a really close group of friends from high school that there's probably 8 to 10 of us that we still very close. We catch up every month, and they've been really good to support me in my journey. But at the same time, they've also grounded me to just going into that environment, and it's just me. Like I'm not Aaron from KX, and they might ask how's work and stuff, and I very quickly push that to the side and just focus on having a good time with my mates. So that's really important for me. I've got some really, really close friends who I've opened up across the years about, struggles and hardships, and they've always been there just to support, or just to tell me how awesome we're going in general. I just bumped into someone the other day, they say they do KX somewhere, how awesome is this? It's so cool just to say that, we're good friends and stuff like that. So really good close group of friends have been phenomenal for me. And now the wives are all really close as well, which is great.
Yeah, that's super cool.
So my wife, Andy, we started seeing each other when I started KX 10 years ago, and then she started working for KX. Right. She was the head of marketing from 2013 onwards. She's just changed her role over to head of systems, but she's been phenomenal for the business, and has supported and saw my vision of the business very, very early on, wanted to get involved very early on, which is why I brought her in. Yeah. And me being the big picture thinker and chasing shiny things, she's the process, system, slow down, let's do it right. So together we've worked really, really well. Amazing. Saying that though, our relationship has sacrificed because she has worked in the business. So it's been a challenging time over the last 10 years with that, but at the same time, now we're in a really good place where I've stepped to the side of the business. She's soon to step to the side of the business. We're focusing on other areas or project-based roles or advisory sort of more roles and overseeing, and not really in the day-to-day. So the heavy stresses that were there are kind of going off to the side. Obviously, we've got 2 kids as well now, 4 and 2.5. So we really want to give back to our young family as well. So that's been a really good addition. So. Not saying it wasn't hard, it certainly was, but we've pushed through that. I mean, we've seen many a counsellor as well, and it's no shame to talk about marriage counselling or emotional fitness, as I really like to call it. I go to the gym every day to get a result, and there's no difference with having a coach. Your emotions and what you're going through. At the end of the day, you're very different people, different personalities. We have completely different personalities, but we're the same goal, and we work really well together. But obviously, sometimes that shifts, and you need to get back on track. So,
you mentioned that you catch up with your mates once a month. Is that like a hard and fast thing, or is it like we do our very best to catch up and it sort of works out like that, or how do you guys?
It really depends. Like there's a golf trip once a year. We go on the weekend away. We go to the races once a year. So we kind of tie everything around events. If everyone can get to it, great. Sometimes some can, sometimes some can't. Cool. Christmas, mid-year, all that sort of stuff. So. And just generally, all our kids are similar ages, so there's always a birthday party or something that we're all catching up on. And it's really funny because the girls go one side, the guys go one side. But yeah, it's good. It's not crazy nights. There's no late nights anymore. It's kind of day socialising is where we're at this age. You can still go to bed early and wake up and feel relatively good again. So
classic.
But it's just a really good, supportive environment and everyone's really open and honest and speaks their mind, and it's a good thing. But saying that, like I've literally kicked out all of the negative people in my life, and I did that probably in the first 2 years of KX because I just couldn't be around anyone that would steer me in a negative direction. And that was a really important thing in my life. There's some really good friends that I had growing up that I don't really talk to anymore, or very occasionally, just because it's like, you know what, if you're not lifting me up, then kind of move to the side, because I'm very much a positive optimist. So it's about having those people around you that support you, lift you up, and can be there for you when shit gets rough, instead of putting you down. This whole tall poppy rubbish that we've got in Australia and stuff like that. Just move it away. And that's the other reason I've always been in business groups, for that exact reason as well, where yes, I can just go and be a mate to all my mates, but then I go to my business groups and everyone knows what everyone does, how successful they all are, and then it's a different conversation. It's a supportive conversation in business, and how can we help you? How can we either make you more money or connect you with certain relationships or people or brands, or and that's a really good helping nature as well. Yeah,
love so many themes in there. So the first time that you had to deal with a negative person in your life, tough, easy, any advice on how people can go about doing that type of thing?
Now I know. It's just the classic thing of, most of the time people are pushing their insecurities on you and trying to bring you down to make themselves feel better. I think now in my older age, I just know what it is now and go, whatever. Back then, it's really hard. I mean, it's really hard when you're trying to grow a business. A lot of people don't understand business unless they've been in business. They don't really understand the struggles. Even when KX was growing, in a franchise, you're really not making money for the first 5 years, minimum. You're putting all the money back in, then you've got to build a head office. So like a lot of my owners were making way more money than me very early on. So it's hard as well when everyone's like, oh, you're killing it. You're at 30 studios, 40 studios, and it's sitting there going, and I'm paying myself, 65 grand a year, and we're still renting, and it's that stage where perception is one thing, and then when you try and correct it, they don't believe you. So, or the bill comes out, it's like, oh, Aaron will pay for it. It's little things like that, little nudges. It's like you don't get. So, and again, for the first couple of years, they could go to barbecues, dinners, etc., etc. Man, I was working 14-hour days, 7 days a week. I'd occasionally see them if there was a birthday or something, and they just thought I was still partying and kicking on and having fun. So perceptions are interesting.
It's the realities, right? And I suppose that's where it comes back to being just really clear on your vision, what you're trying to achieve, and making decisions on purpose. This is where I'm going. This is why I'm going that way, and I'm comfy with that. And if that means that we can't do certain things, then that's okay. I'm consciously making that decision. Yeah,
and I think I've always been very confident in who I am, where I want to go, and I think once you've got that confidence in yourself, it's really hard for other people to rock you. So that's why I do a lot of learning. I do a lot of personal development. I do a lot of time to myself to try and think and reflect. And I'm just always, not always, because in my teens I wasn't, but moving late 20s, especially after the first really couple of hard years of KX, I realised what was important in my life, and who I was. And I think that's really important, because once you've got that self-confidence, self-respect, you can kind of do anything, because you're the only person that's going to stop you.
Yeah, for sure. I want to go back to something you said before, and if you don't want to go into that's cool, but you talked about getting some counselling with your wife. We have a lot of guys that sort of are in relationships, and they're going through different stages of relationships. I'm a massive believer that, excuse me, relationships are just like anything else. They need to be worked on constantly. 100%. And as you evolve as a person, then you need to take things at different angles and different approaches, and expecting, particularly if you form your relationship in your 20s, expecting things to be the same through your 30s and into your 40s, it's probably unrealistic. Can you maybe just share a little bit about sort of how you've gone about that, how you've done things on purpose, any lessons, advice you can give?
Yeah, so I mean, my father has been married to my mother 50 years next year.
Amazing. How good's that?
Amazing. And he has always drilled into me growing up that he's worked harder on his relationship than any other aspect in his life. And he's run marathons, he's run a business for 45 years. And he's done some pretty amazing things with his life. But his number one in his life is his family, but his marriage. So, and it's really easy to say that, but then to actually physically do it is one thing, because people just expect that it's gonna work. And even there was only a month ago when in our business group we had an emotional fitness guy come in, and I mean, everyone goes through all the different life stages. And you might not be in the same life stage as your partner, because you might be older, younger, or whatever. Kids make it completely a different story. So, I mean, I look back in my life, and I haven't had any traumatic events or things that have really rocked me emotionally, but everyone goes through these just normal changes, and it's about adapting and realizing that you and your partner or your wife or your husband, you're different people. And you sometimes want different things. So it's about aligning both of your wants and needs to each other. Communication's obviously huge. So it's just something that I've always been fine with. It's nothing, and if my wife was here now, she'd be saying the exact same thing, hence why we're happy to talk about it. But it's been something where when things are really shit and stressed, we would be seeing someone more, just talking about it. Sometimes it's just easy just to stop talking. And one of my biggest traits is I just shut down. So I would just stop talking and ignore everything. And so again, it opens up the conversation again, talk about how you're feeling, why not, what happened, this is how you made me feel, all that sort of stuff. So it's just great to get talking again and then reconnecting. And I think you fall in and out of love, or you reconnect, or things happen. So it's about getting back to why you're together, what's important. Kids were huge for us. We were traveling the world. We did 5 overseas trips before my son was born. We moved to Sydney for 2.5 years, Brisbane. Like, traveling was massive for us. But then kids come, it's like, one's awesome, you can take them anywhere. 2, you can't go do anything for a couple of years. We're now, with my daughter being 2.5, we're now getting back to starting to travel a bit more, and having 2 kids out of nappies is amazing and that sort of stuff. So, but again, it's about, okay, now we're a great family, but then what are we doing for our personal relationship, because it's very, very separate. And I always think of, well, don't just put it back into your family and your kids, because after 18, 20 years, they're gone and then you're stuck with each other again. So, let's communicate and let's make our foundation. And it's no real different than a business. If the leader is solid at the top, then it filters down all the way through his employees and his staff. If the parents aren't solid, then the family isn't. And that's why we always looked like, in my entire life, I saw my parents argue once. So, and that was over something like Dad wanted to have a surf, Mum wanted to go to an antique store, and they just like that was stupid. And Mum went for a drive and came back 6 hours later, and Dad went for a surf. But so I mean, we're different. I mean, my wife is Italian background, so we argue, we're loud. She's taught me to really open up and express my feelings quickly, and but it's healthy and it's good. Sure. And to talk to people is completely fine. And we don't want to call it a psychologist, or a counsellor. It's I just talk about emotional fitness. That's all it is. That's all it is. Or making your marriage or relationship the best it can be. And you look at what's the divorce rate? 2 out of 3 or something.
It's crazy.
So it hasn't really happened in our friends, because we're a pretty solid unit, but and I'd be surprised if it did, because the respect is there for each other and partnerships, and so. But saying that, you just never know. You never know what's going on behind closed doors.
Totally.
But it's
amazing. Love that so much. In relation to the emotional fitness stuff, have you learnt or come across over the years any rituals, disciplines, practices that you can sort of put in place to check yourself, so to speak? Or is it now just you're pretty in tune with it and you now can just sense it and then you can act on it?
Look, the more you know about what you do in certain situations, the more you can control it. So my wife always tells me, she's very anal about having everything perfect around the house. So she'll say, hey, move this or do this or put this back here, and if I don't do it quickly, then she gets angry. But now she's realised that I will do it, but just not that quick. So if she wants it done, then she will get a little bit frustrated, but she'll do it. Otherwise, if she's happy to ignore it, she'll wait for me to do it. So it's also learning. And again, as I said, I know that if I get to a certain stage, I just shut down. So it's about, okay, remove yourself. 20 minutes, half an hour, go for a walk, go see your mate, come back, talk about it. Don't just stop talking about it and then not talk for a week. So it's just about learning what you do in certain situations. You can attempt to change things. Certainly I've changed a lot of my bad habits and sort of adapted my personality, and same with my wife, adapted her personality around me and my flaws or the way I do things. And again, it's just about learning about each other, and at the end of the day, just looking each other in the eye and saying, are you okay? Is there anything I can do to kind of make things better? You need to be there for each other. I think the biggest learning is that you should be a team. So why, stop fighting against each other and start fighting with each other.
I love it. I have come to learn that my car is actually like a really good signal for me. If my car gets messy, it's telling me that my brain's probably a little bit frantic, and it's like this really interesting thing of, okay, notice that, circuit breaker, go wash the car. Not because the car necessarily car means anything, but it's just like a ritual for me to sort of reset. It's become like an interesting trigger for me. Last thing, you talked a lot about business groups. How did you get into that? You've talked a little bit about the things that you like about it, but again, for people who are there thinking about their professional career and how they can make big strides forward in a meaningful way, what's advice, lessons you can share in relation to that?
So to me, as I said, I opened up KX and no one came in the first day, which is funny. I had no idea what a pre-sale was. So it was just an old friend just randomly. She's like, hey, I think you would like this. I know the guy running it. And that was Jack from the Entourage. And so I went to one of the seminars, and I was just like, man, this is gold. I know none of this stuff. I know how to be a great trainer. And I know how to create a great experience, but in terms of growing a business, no idea. So I actually failed finance, accounting, marketing at university when I thought that I was going to go down business. And I was like, oh shit, changed it all back to fitness, but then had to relearn it. But I learned it on the job, and that was the best part. So I was a massive sponge to it. I learned everything from online to social to strategic partnerships to just absolutely everything to do with business. I put everything into play, and if it worked, awesome. If it didn't, whatever, referral programs, local community benefit programs, all this sort of stuff that we still have in our business today. And it was just trial and fail sort of thing. So that was awesome for me. Again, getting around. So I'm not a big book reader. I mean, I've read enough books in my time, but I'm not that, that rubbish that's like, this year read 60 books a year or whatever. And I'll maybe read 2.
Sure.
Podcasts are massive for me. But where I get my most value out of is relationships. So the business groups that I've joined, obviously Entourage was there for a couple of years, and then I moved over to EO, Entrepreneurs Organisation, in 2014 in Sydney. Been amazing for me. So it's a mixture of a forum, which is 6 to 8 people. You meet every month, you talk about the top 5% and the bottom 5% of your family, your personal, and your business, and your community as well. And that's been great for me. And then there's learning events through EO, probably 1 to 2 a month, from guest speakers, like for instance the other day, the emotional fitness, to how to exit a business at X million if you're going to strive for that, or whatever it is. So that's been great. But not only the learnings and the forum, but just getting out there. And I mean, everyone is in the same position. So if you work so many hours in your business, your relationship's terrible. If you spend all the time with your family, then your business is suffering. Like the whole balance, everyone is kind of really trying to achieve. I think it's absolutely impossible to achieve it. You just need to be at a place where you're comfortable. If you're happy working 8 hours a week and not seeing your kids very often, that's cool. That's okay to feel that. Me, on the other hand, is one reason why I stepped out. I mean, as much as I stopped loving running a franchise after 50 studios, and I knew that someone was better to come and take over, I just didn't want to work 68 hours a week. So I know I've had Mondays at home with my kids since my son was born 4 years ago, which is awesome. Very rarely check my phone for an email. And I'm with my kids every morning, and I'm home early every night, and that's kind of it. So that's really important to me. And again, if the business took twice as long to get there so I could do what I'm doing, that was totally cool with me, because I wanted to, I grew up, and as much as I had an amazing upbringing, my father worked a lot. So, we had great holidays, and but again, having your own business is very time consuming. And I just knew that I wanted to give a lot more time, especially when they're young, like before school and stuff like that. So EO was really, really good for me. Obviously, you need to meet criteria on how big your business is first to reach it. It's not too crazy. And then, you can go up from there. But the whatever thousand it costs, I think it's like 7,000 or 8,000 a year or whatever. But, if I get 2 nuggets a year to bring that back into my business and make X more, it's certainly worth it. But just being around those people and the learnings have been brilliant. Yeah, no doubt. I said that was the last one. I've got one more for you.
Sure. How have you found the right balance between self-confidence and humility and willingness to learn? Because it feels to me like you've got a fantastic balance of those two things. How'd you get there?
Yeah, I'm going to bring arrogance in there as well.
Sure.
I think I learned very young, and it was probably when I was transitioning in my late teens, and I came out of an all-boys school that was very, very competitive, that arrogance side of things, so there's a very fine line, I feel, between confidence and arrogance. And it was randomly an old friend who basically pulled me up one day, and she's like, "You're a really good guy, but you're fucking arrogant sometimes." And I just pulled back and I said, that's not the person that I want to be. And I used to use arrogance like jokingly, but at the end of the day, there's truth to every joke, right? So I just completely pulled it out, and I started seeing what I hated in other people and really despising arrogance. So, and joking about it was certainly the one way to move into that sort of arrogant way. So I stopped joking about it straight away, and I just, look, this is not the sort of person that I wanted to be. And it's just really, I don't know the real answer to the question, but I've always been self-confident in myself and worked on myself, and know, if I'm not in the best place of mind, if my body's not in the right space, then get there. Because I look back at the best times in my life, and I was the fittest, healthiest, I was happy with the way I looked in the mirror, I was eating clean, and all that sort of stuff. And yes, it goes up and down all the time. As I said, the best thing this year has been intermittent fasting for me, because I can still blow out on the weekends and have some beers or whatever. And then Monday, bang, straight back into it again. The routine stays. So discipline is really important when it comes to all that stuff. But humility, I've just always, I don't know if it's been in the franchise world, but without my owners and without my team, without my wife, I just wouldn't be here. And it's I just couldn't stand up. I'd be a fraud if I stood up and said, "Hey, I've done this all by myself." But I'm an honest person and really ethical when it comes to business, and I stand up and say, I started it, yes, but without all of my amazing owners, we just simply wouldn't be here. Like, I help them make more money, and they're generating money makes me money, and it's a really strange relationship, but it's a synergistic relationship that I don't think. I could probably talk about equality as well. With EO, I went to a university in New York in 2015, and this lesbian monk of all people stood up and basically talked about equality. And there was just this one line that she said she used to walk into a cafe every morning and say to the barista, "Who's better than you?" And he's like, "What do you mean, who's better than me?" And well, this guy's better than me at making coffee, am I right? She's like, "No, who's better than you?" And she pushed him. And he gave her the wrong answer like 5 days in a row. Finally, she turned around and she goes, "No one's better than you. But you're no better than anyone else. So remember that. I don't care if you're a barista, I don't care if you're a lawyer, And that just really stuck in my head that it doesn't matter who you are, what you do, as a human race, we are all equal. Sure. And I think the pretentiousness, the arrogance, the money, all that stuff is just rubbish. And I've never been money number one as well, which has probably helped. It's always been creating a great brand and experience, and the money will kind of follow. Again, I saw Jim Rohn speak when I was 18 in Vegas, who's no longer around, but a keynote who talked about the more you care about your customer, and the more you put your customer first before money, the more money you'll make from it. So, and again, so little things resonate with me, and they kind of really stick. And I've been saying the same things, every question that's asked to me for a very long time, but that's what I literally think about. When I get up on stage in front of my owners or someone interviews me, it's like, that's just where I'm at. And I love being at the front of it. I love doing stuff. I love being the face of my brand. I live a very private life on the side, but it's just about, going along for the ride, and we are a big family, and our owners are, a huge part of our success. So, it just needs to be spoken honestly, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Mate,
I don't know if I answered the question.
No, you have. I could sit here and talk to you for another 3-4 hours, but I know that there's going to be a class coming in here soon. So, mate, thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
It's honestly a real pleasure and privilege. Some really great practical things that people can take and build on. The fact that you were sort of sharing some of those more personal things as well is going to be enormously valuable. So,
awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers. We'll see you next time, guys. Excellent. Thank you, mate.
No worries.
I'm inspired, legitimately.